There's been lots of talk about changes to the game, and I don't really get involved in these. What I do know though, having worked in process improvement and things like this, if you change anything, about 50% of the people hate it, or 50% of the customers hate it, or 50% of the staff hate it, and in general it's impossible to do anything that everybody likes. But this is a really simple idea that I have, that I want to put forward. It's not just my idea, it actually really belongs to the World of Warcraft. So, in the early days of World of Warcraft, it had no endgame content. So, they slowed down your progress. It took a really long time to get to level 60. I think my first character I leveled to level 60, you could press /play and it would tell you the time you've been playing online. And I think I'd had something like 16 days to get to level 60. But as the game began to gain endgame content, a huge amount of endgame content, they decided to make it easier to level the character. It was easier to get to the end game. It was easier to start an alt. You just got more XP for everything you did and more XP for every quest you completed, and you could go through the early game a lot quicker. You could of course go a little slower if you wanted to, but this was an option. What my idea is now is, instead of this game carrying on as it is, that those that are in late game, rather than being offered an option to restart their account should they log back into it, or the new journey, as I sometimes use to start my accounts, or new players will be presented with the option that they can play Classic, which is the exact same game that we all play now, or onto a hardcore server for more experienced players. On the hardcore server though, things will move at roughly 3 times faster. Not your troops, but the monument, the amount of resources you gather, the time it takes to build, even down to your alliance credits. So instead of 10k in a day, you can do 30k in a day. When you press to research, instead of it being 100, 200, 500 or 1000, it'll be 300, 600, 1500 or 3000. So at the end of the first 25 to 30 days, you will be in KVK 1, a lot quicker than it currently is now. But you will be almost exactly where you would have been anyhow. Of course, you can only kill the same number of barbarians, but the reward would be 3 times as much for every barbarian you kill. As like the reward is 3 times much for every help you give. And in this way, when you gather, it won't gather 3 times faster, but of course you'll get 3 times as much resources. So, you'll kill the same number of barbarians, you'll gather the same amount, the monument will be much faster, as will the events. For example, instead of an event that usually lasts, say, 3 days, such as the Shadow Legions, it would just last 1 day, and you would just progress a lot faster to KVK 1. So it should take you, as you say, instead of 70 to 80 days, you'll be at KVK in 28 days. But you should just be the same power that you would have been anyhow. Then KVK 1 will be a lot quicker. It will be done in about 2 weeks or 16 days. Again, just moving a lot quicker. But once you've done KVK 1, 2 and 3, you will then revert back to the classic game as you go into SOC. So, but in principle though, you should just be where you would have been had you done 200 odd days to get to SOC. You would just be exactly where you were, but a lot quicker. My idea is that if you stack more people into the end game, then you're going to have a healthy end game. People want lots of players there. And if we can get players through the early game quicker, more of them might make it. And think about how the advertising campaign might sound. Sick of building queues? We've cut all of ours by X%, giving you a faster gaming experience, more progress. You could also, of course, have to amend the purchases. That all of these would need to be ×3. And I think you'll find then who's not going to buy certainly some of these if they were ×3. The history pack, instead of 10 gold heads, would be 30. So you're progressing people through the game a lot faster. Sunset Canyon would be more exciting because the rewards would be 3 times as much, because you would have a third less Sunset Canyons, a third less time to get the rewards, but the rewards will all be ×3. So that would be 3 gold keys a day and 15 at the season. So in principle, you get exactly the same, just 3 times faster. And to be honest, sometimes I think we get whales join the game and they rush through, and in about 30 days they're maxed. Well, they will have less time to wait before the fighting starts. It might be just more exciting. Let's say though you're not enjoying the hardcore server. Remember, it's a choice. What I would say though, we would have to think about and introduce a different way for servers to start. At the moment, kingdoms open one at a time and create an advantage for the people who are in the early kingdoms. For example, in my kingdom, 3505 is on day 46, where we are 5 days behind them. And 5 days is a huge time in Rise of Kingdoms anyhow. But of course, in the hardcore servers, that would be a 15-day advantage, because they'd be getting 5 times more of everything. So, the way you would stop this is, instead of a new server starting at a set time every so often, all the players would start to pool, would go to the Lost Kingdom, into the outer zones of the Lost Kingdom, and they would be restricted to level 7. So, and as the kingdom got to about 20,000 in the Lost Kingdom, with only small barbarians around, everybody would then get to about 20,000 players collected. It would then form the 4 kingdoms at the exact same time, giving some element of balance to the kingdoms. So rather than the oldest kingdom regularly being the gold star, it would hopefully solve that problem as well. So this is my idea, and I think it's quite good in that often I've sat in meetings where we've had meetings with the staff of a department, and they've had loads of ideas of what they could do to improve it. Most of these ideas would actually put them out of a job, that they're so good, or the IT would have to be so amazing that it just either doesn't exist or would cost us millions and millions of pounds to put in. But all I'm suggesting is adjusting the speed, and I think you could make a very different gaming experience. And for the 50% that don't want to do it, you play Classic Rise of Kingdoms. And for the 50% that would like to move a bit quicker and get into SOC in, what's it called? I forget what SOC stands for, but into the late game quicker, then they can press and choose to go on the hardcore servers and move 3 times faster. But ultimately, we will all be in the same place when we eventually go into the end game. So it's a simple idea. Warcraft have already put forward how it may work. But as we've got plenty of end game, something's got to change. And I know they're going to dress us up and give us a new land or new graphics, and I'm a bit scared about that. I'm hoping we don't end up with cartoony commanders, but if we do, we do. It's their game, they can do what they want. But of course, it's very scary for them that any change they make is such a huge risk. But this change doesn't have the same element of risk. And I don't think it's an invasive coding or development project, because all you're doing is speeding up what's already here. Thanks for watching. That's my idea for today. And massive shout out to all of those new subscribers and those that support the channel. Thanks for watching.